Welcome to the Books of Titans podcast, where I seek truth in the world's great books. I'm your host, Eric Rostad, coming to you from the beautiful Books of Titans studio in Franklin, Tennessee. My goal is to read 200 of the great books over the next 10 years and share what I'm learning. I'll talk a bit about each book, tie ideas together from a variety of genres, and share the one thing I always hope to remember from each of the great books. Today I'm going to cover 4 plays by Aeschylus. Aeschylus is a tragedy writer, and he wrote many plays during his lifetime, around 70, and only 7 of them remain. So last week I covered the Oresteia. That is a trilogy, and so we have those 3 plays and then the 4 that I'm covering today. So this book that contains the 4 is book 12 for my 2024 reading list, and Aeschylus, the author, is the 13th author on my list of 200 of the great books. So the 4 plays here are Prometheus Bound, The Suppliants, 7 Against Thebes, and The Persians. What's cool about the one called The Persians is that Aeschylus fought against the Persians. He fought in the Persian War against the Persians when they came into Greece. And so he was in the Battle of Marathon. And so when he wrote about this play called The Persians, this was just around 10 years after the actual events. And so we have some knowledge of the Persian Wars from Herodotus, but this is another source where we have some information. Tragedy, again, I talked about this briefly last week, is an impossible situation. It's a sort of thing where the main person, character, or characters, they are damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. And what I'm also beginning to see is that a lot of times these tragedies are built around an oracle or a fate that's been stated, or a curse. And what you see is the characters trying to get around what is fated to happen. And that's just part of the tragedy of it, is that you can't. There's this idea that this is set in stone. You are going to do it, whether you know you're doing it or not. And it's going to lead to some very tragic situations in that person's life. And so we see that in the case of some of these plays as well. And so what I want to do in today's episode is just briefly cover 3 ideas I've been tracking across Greek literature that show up in some of these plays. And what I've found so exciting about Greek literature so far is that it all ties together. There's kind of this overarching mythology that fuels all of these plays or these works. And so many of these authors are telling one certain part of this greater mythology. And so they're digging into, what would this have looked like? We know the grand story, and the people of that time would have been steeped in these myths. So they would have known the grand stories, but to dig into some of these deeper, it just, what would this have meant for this thing to happen, and what would that entail in the person's life, and how they thought about it and how they went about it, and in that sort of thing. And so the first idea I want to talk about is found in Prometheus Bound. And so if we just take that title itself, it should make us want to ask a question of, why is Prometheus bound? And Prometheus was a Titan, and he had knowledge that he shared with humans. And part of that was fire. And so Prometheus is credited to giving fire to humans. And you just think of all the things that are made possible by fire: just survival, cooking food, making weapons, the endless possibilities of what fire allows. And so this idea that humankind did not have that before Prometheus, but Prometheus gave that to humans. He also gave hope to humans. There's a whole page 35 in this play that talks about all the different things that Prometheus gave to humankind. And because of that, Zeus punished him, because Zeus wanted to get rid of humankind. He wanted to replace them with something better. But by giving them fire, by giving them hope, Prometheus allowed them to survive. And so that's one piece of the knowledge that Prometheus had and then shared with humankind. But Prometheus also had another thing in his mind that he kept from Zeus. And that was knowledge about who would surpass Zeus. So Zeus's father, Cronus, Zeus surpassed him and took over the supreme leadership from his father. And so it was fated that somebody would do that to Zeus. And it didn't happen, but Prometheus knew who that would be and knew what birth would lead to that, but would not share that with Zeus. So Prometheus is bound to a rock. And if you look at the cover of the version that I'm reading of the book, it shows this stone sculpture of Prometheus, and he's got a shackle around his arm, and he's bound to this rock, and his punishment is for, since he is a Titan and he can't die, it's to be shackled to this rock, and then every day this eagle or a bird would come down and eat his liver, and just imagine this intense pain. And so that's his punishment. And he's given the option to get out of this punishment by telling Zeus this knowledge that he has, and he refuses to do it. But within this, there's this discussion of fate, and what is fate, and how does it relate to Zeus? Does Zeus determine fate, or is fate above Zeus? And this is a conversation that really starts in the Iliad. In the Iliad, the opening lines, you have this idea that the will of Zeus is being completed or finished or is being worked out throughout the Iliad. And so you kind of read the Iliad and you're thinking, okay, what does this mean? Does this mean that Zeus has some sort of an idea of his head of how he wants this all to play out, and then things are just going to happen that way, like he makes them happen, or he works all things together to make these things happen? How is this working out? And so that's just something, as a reader, you're trying to work out within the Iliad itself. But then you come across this specific example in the Iliad where there seems to be something above Zeus. And it's this situation where Zeus's own son, Sarpedon, is fated to die, and Zeus does not stop it. And so the question is, could he stop it? Or is there something higher than Zeus that is determining what happens? And so scholars disagree on this. There's a huge argument. Some say that Zeus's will and fate are one and the same thing, just kind of alter egos. There's another side that says fate is above Zeus, and so Zeus is not the supreme ruler because there's something higher than that. There's this fate that even Zeus has to fall within. And so we see this come up in Prometheus Bound, and this is just an idea that I'm kind of tracking throughout Greek literature, because I just find it very fascinating, this idea of a Greek conception of Zeus's will and the power of Zeus, and what did that mean, and how did it play out. So I want to read a few lines here. This comes on page 35 of the Penguin Classics edition. So I'll start by what the chorus says. So this is a dialogue between the chorus and Prometheus. So here we start with the chorus. Then do not, after helping men to your own hurt, neglect to save yourself from torment. I have hopes that you will be freed and rival Zeus in power. And then Prometheus responds, fate fulfills all in time, but it is not ordained that these events shall yet reach such an end. My lot is to win freedom only after countless pains. Cunning is feebleness beside necessity. And the chorus responds, and whose hand on the helm controls necessity? Prometheus responds, the three fates and the Furies who forget nothing. The chorus asks, has Zeus less power than they? Prometheus responds, he cannot fly from fate. The chorus responds, what fate is given to Zeus but everlasting power? And Prometheus responds, this is a thing you may not know, so do not ask. And I'll stop reading there. But the two key lines here, where the chorus asked, has Zeus less power than they? So the Fates and the Furies. Does Zeus have less power than they? And Prometheus says he cannot fly from fate. So Prometheus here is saying that there does appear to be something, there does appear to be a fate that is higher than Zeus. And then the chorus says, what fate is given Zeus but everlasting power? So chorus is kind of asking, isn't the power that Zeus have can't that be over fate? And then Prometheus says, this is a thing you may not know, so do not ask. So even here, it remains ambiguous as to whether fate is on top or whether Zeus is on top. And so this is just something I'll keep following through Greek literature, but I love when it comes up like this. I love tracking this. Prometheus Bound is just a fascinating play. And all four of these are very short. I mean, the whole book here, we're looking at about 150 pages. And so I highly suggest getting this book and going through these tragedy plays. The next one is The Suppliants. And this is the story of 50 virgins who they leave Egypt and they wind up in Argos. And there's a point where there are 50 men from Egypt who come to try to take these virgins back to Egypt and to marry them. And they do not want to go, and they've made this pact with Argos. And the king of Argos has said, I will protect you. You guys are foreigners, you're travelers, and I will protect you. And so it comes to blows in the sense that now you've got this group of men who want to take these women away. And so what is going to win out? And here's a second theme that has started showing up in Greek literature. It showed up last week very strongly in the Oresteia, and especially in the third part, the Eumenides. And it's this idea of what will win out? Will words or war win out? Is it the threat of violence, or is it the ability to discuss an idea? What wins out? And there's this idea in last week where the civilization starts when words win out over violence. That might does not make right, but discussion, going through ideas and finding the best idea, that is the way forward. That is the best way. But what do you do when those two things clash? Because it's very hard to maintain these ideas when you've got a sword to your throat. So how do these two things work out? And so this comes up a lot in The Suppliants. And there's this great part where at the end, or towards the end, there's a statement. It says this: "Not that this matter calls for courts or witnesses. The judge is Ares." And that's the end of that part. But again, you've got this idea: what's going to win here, courts or witnesses, or Ares, the god of war and the god of violence? Like, what's going to win out here? Violence and action, or words, courts, and witnesses? And so I like this idea. I'm calling it the battle between Ares and the Areopagus. So Ares versus the Areopagus. And in the Eumenides, the Areopagus is set up by Athena as this kind of court of law system to discuss these things, to have trial by peers as opposed to just violence and things being worked out that way. So I've seen this come up in other tragedy plays that I'm reading now as well. I'm on to Sophocles now. And so this is another key idea that keeps coming up. So again, the first one is the will of Zeus, and who's in control? Is it fate or Zeus? And then the second one here, is it Ares or the Areopagus? What's running things, and what's the best way forward? Now, the third one I'm going to pull from Seven Against Thebes, and this was the third play that was in this book of four plays by Aeschylus. And this one is this kind of follows after the story of Oedipus. And right now I'm reading the Theban plays, which is the story of Oedipus. And so you've got Oedipus the king, and this cursed family, and how that all plays out. So this one here, Seven Against Thebes, takes place after all of that. So Oedipus at this point is dead, but now you've got his two sons who are kind of battling it out over control, like who's going to rule from this point forward. And so Thebes is being attacked, and there are 7 gates to Thebes, and so you've got 7 warriors who are attacking specific gates, and then on the Theban side, you've got 7 people who are placed at these gates to battle against the people trying to come in. And so it's this it's the setting, and then the two brothers, the two sons of Oedipus, they end up battling each other, and the curse finally reaches its end. And so that's my third idea from these plays that has shown up across the works. But it's this idea of a curse, and a curse being active and working itself out until it is fully fulfilled. And most of the time, if a curse is fulfilled, that means there is a lot of death. And since these are tragedies, you see curses come up quite a bit. And so this one was just, it was interesting because 2020, I read the Bible straight through for the first time as part of this reading project. And the one thing I noticed, each time I read through the Bible now, I just kind of pick up on one specific idea and just kind of trace it throughout the Bible. And so when I did that in 2020, the thing that came up right away was the curse. And you saw this curse, and after the fruit is eaten by Adam and Eve, the ground is cursed and the serpent is cursed. And then you read throughout the rest of the Bible, and you see a curse going throughout the entire Bible. And then you see the curse fulfilled, or you see it ended on the very last page of the Bible. So it was really an extraordinary thing to follow throughout the Bible that year. But it's interesting to me, this idea of the curse. And now you see this idea of a curse showing up quite a bit in Greek literature as well. And so what does it mean? Who can give curses? Is it just the gods, or can humans give curses to other humans? These are just kind of the questions I like to consider and look at. Secondly, what does the curse mean? Like, is the curse set in stone like fate is? Can humans bypass the curse if they take specific actions? Is a curse dependent on actions, or is it just there? Like it's just going to happen whether you change everything right now or not. So in this play, the 7 against Thebes, it's interesting to look at that curse idea, and then and it does tie to that first idea as well of fate. Are these things fated to happen no matter what action that the participants take? So just a fascinating thing to look through and to consider. And so those are 3 ideas that I came across in these plays. I do suggest reading these. So again, Aeschylus was the first tragedy writer that we have where his plays survived. And he's also credited with coming up with the second actor. And so at first you just had a chorus, and so the chorus might just sing or tell the story. And so it's a group of people telling a story. And then Thespis, where we get the word thespian. Thespis is credited with introducing an individual actor. And so now you've got a chorus and an actor. So an actor maybe the actor can narrate and tell about the story, or tell a different version of the story other than what the chorus is telling. And so you can think of the possibilities that are opened up when you introduce other things. And now Aeschylus has introduced a second actor. So now you can have dialogue, you can have debate, you can have relationships, you can have things taking place between 2 actors, and then the chorus is still there, kind of giving a perspective perhaps of the populace, or how Aeschylus wants the people who are watching the play, what he wants them to think. So, and then when we get into Sophocles next week, he introduces the third character. So now you can have more drama, dilemma, all sorts of things with the addition of a third actor. And we still have these things today with us when we go to a play, or when we go to in opera or something, we see these same things at play. And so these are when it's first being worked out, and at least of what we have remaining from these things. So it's really exciting to see these things. I'm going to close the episode with that this week. Thank you for listening. I do hope you read Aeschylus at some point in your life. Again, just know that these are very short plays. You could get through one in an evening. You could read it to your kids. I mean, some of these get pretty dark, so you might want the kids to be a little older, but that's one shocking thing about these great works, is that many of them are short. many of them are such that you could get through them in an evening. So yes, there are also enormous books that are part of the great books, and they will take you weeks and weeks to read, but there are also some that you can get through rather quickly. And so don't let the great books be a daunting thing. Go after them. Start with some of these smaller ones. These are just fantastic plays. You'll hear references to them throughout your life, especially Prometheus. So these are just great stories to know, great stories to have in your quiver. And so I do hope you read these books. That'll do it for today. Thank you for listening. You can follow Books of Titans. I now have a Substack, and I'm really excited about this. I've moved the podcast over to Substack. And so you can subscribe there, and then you'll be notified of any new podcast release. I'm also going to start writing some more articles and that sort of thing on the Substack. So that's just booksoftitans.substack.com. I still have my website, Books of Titans, as well, and I highlight my reading lists there. I highlight my great books list, so you can see what 200 books I'll be reading for this great books project. I'm also on Instagram or Twitter, and you can follow me there at Books of Titans. I'd love to hear from you. If you have read Aeschylus, if you have something to share about Aeschylus, or perhaps something I got wrong here or something I missed, please do let me know. I'm here to learn. I'm coming at this as an amateur of sorts in the best sort of the use of that term of a lover of literature, a lover of these works. So I'm trying to learn, and it won't help me at all if you know something that I got wrong, if you don't share that with me. So I really would appreciate that if you let me know by email, or on this Substack now, you can just leave a comment right there. I'll be back next week. I will be covering, most likely be covering Sophocles and his works, doing a Catherine Project reading group through Sophocles' plays right now. And so that is very exciting. And I'm looking forward to closing that up. Thank you for listening. Keep listening, keep reading, and keep learning. I'm out.